Good evening. Happy New Year. This is the first Talking Sports with Evan of 2025. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in and watching and listening all year long in 2024. And I hope and appreciate if you come along with me in 2025 as well. You can follow me on X at Evan Witt Sports. You can also follow me on Facebook and on YouTube, Talking Sports with Evan. And make sure to go to YouTube and subscribe because there will be some NFL draft content that will be coming out on YouTube only in the next several weeks. I'm getting my draft stuff ready to go, and I'm going to start breaking down position by position for the NFL draft. Some of it will be Packer-centric. Some of it will be just NFL draft in general, looking to get some guests on for that. So you don't want to miss any of that. So make sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure to hit the subscribe button on Facebook. And make sure to give me a follow here on X. And you can always, in the top corner of X on my page, you can always hit that little bell with the plus. That's the notify button, and you'd be notified anytime I am live here on X. So make sure to give that a hit as well. A few things to talk about as 2024 came to an end, and 2025 is officially starting today. Packers, Vikings. Unfortunately, the Packers fell to the Vikings, snapping their winning streak. The Packers play the Bears this week, so I will talk Packers and Vikings, give my final thoughts on that before I close that door, and then open the door on the Packers and the Bears. And yes, I had to do the little motion there. I'm going to talk some college football playoffs and talk some officiating as well, because there's some plays in the Packer-Viking game that seem to have gotten people in an uproar, and just going to kind of give my general thoughts on officiating. And before we do all that, there is going to be no bowl game tonight down in Louisiana. They rightfully decided to postpone the Sugar Bowl until tomorrow. Unfortunately, there was a terrorist attack in New Orleans where somebody drove a truck onto Bourbon Street, striking many people, injuring many people, killing many people, and they decided to postpone the bowl game till tomorrow. And I know people question, well, why? Why not? Now you're giving them another, the people that attacked Bourbon Street, now you're giving them another day to plan for the Sugar Bowl. Well, I did actually see that on social media, so that's why I'm bringing it up. And this kind of, first of all, my thoughts and prayers, which I think we're all tired of that by this point, and thoughts and prayers on everything. But my thoughts are with the family members who lost loved ones, the people who are injured, and even the family of the driver of the truck, because all their lives are forever changed in various ways. Some people lost fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, sons, daughters, and the people who are injured and the people who witnessed it, their lives are forever scarred and changed as well with the trauma that they experienced. But I think the Sugar Bowl did the right thing. I think that New Orleans is doing the right thing, moving the game. Because here's why it's the right thing to do. First of all, it's to show respect for the people who are hurt and killed in this tragic incident, this terror attack on Bourbon Street. I've been on Bourbon Street before. I've been there a few times. I love the city of New Orleans. I love the atmosphere, and the people there are some of the nicest people you'd ever meet. And you have a lot of people down there currently for this Sugar Bowl. You're going to have a lot of people down there in about a month, over a month for the Super Bowl. And then you got Mardi Gras coming up too. And those are all huge events for the New Orleans economy. And those are all, events that could be devastated too with these attacks. Like there's a lot of different areas to look at on what's going to be affected with the cowardly attack on Bourbon Street today, or actually, it's early this morning. Well, one reason you move it is the respect and to pay respects to the people that lost their lives and were injured. The other reason to do it, you're going to have a lot of law enforcement attention down on Bourbon Street right now as they investigate and gather data and look for information and try to make the determination, is this a single person that decided to do this, or is this an operation? Is this a multi-facet, a multi-people attack on whatever? They have to figure all that out too. So you don't want to have the Sugar Bowl. Security is going to be affected by all the attention on the investigation, and you need time to have people do that investigation, have people secure areas, search houses, search home, whatever. You need people for that, and you need people to run security for the Sugar Bowl. By moving it to tomorrow, you also are allowing people from other parishes in Louisiana, law enforcement agencies from other parishes, and they call them parishes down there. You're getting other people from other parishes to potentially offer support for law enforcement and security detail from other states, from other agencies. You're allowing those people to be able to get down to Louisiana to help ensure the health and safety of everyone attending the Sugar Bowl. So all in all, it is the right choice to move the Sugar Bowl till tomorrow so you can get all this figured out. And you also need time to make sure that the Louisiana, I still want to call it the Superdome, you want to make sure there's no planned attacks there. You want to make sure it's secure. You want to make sure everything is up to par with what you expect at this event. And how do you expect... Sorry about that. How do you expect these players and these teams to be able to come out there and play a game so soon after this incident happened on Bourbon Street? It's just extremely unfair, in my opinion, to expect them to go out there and perform for everybody at home watching on TV. So there's many reasons why it was appropriate and it was the right choice to delay the Sugar Bowl by a day to make sure you have everything covered. And by kicking it back just a day, you're also going to give the players on the field ample time to rest after the game to get ready for the winner of this game plays Penn State. But this next part of my conversation here isn't going to be sports related. It's just in general. I put out on X today, and it's something that's been there in here, I've been holding on to for a little while now, especially after the school shooting in Madison, which wasn't very far from where I grew up in Madison. It was like a 10-minute drive. I've been kind of holding it in since then. And then I see it again after these attacks. And I think social media and police shows like NCIS, CSI, Law and Order, Blue Bloods, The Rookie, all of those shows, I hate to say this, but I think they all made us kind of stupid. I think they've dumbed down America as a society. And with social media, people able to put out whatever they want, whenever they want, which is both a good and a bad thing. Everybody should have the platform to speak their mind, but not everybody should always share what is on their mind. And it kind of started with the shooting in Madison. Well, why aren't the police telling us who the shooter is? Why aren't the police telling us who was shot? Why aren't the police telling us who died? Why aren't the police releasing more information? And now with the incident early this morning on Bourbon Street, it's all about, now we know the identity of the driver. At the time of my post, we didn't know. They didn't announce it yet. Why? It's been 3 hours. It's been 4 hours. It's been 5 hours. Why have we not gotten the name of the driver yet? Why weren't they released it to us? If they're not releasing it to us, you know what that means. It doesn't fit the narrative they want to provide. Why do they cover this flag? Why aren't they, giving out this information or that information? Why can't we? Why don't we know how many people were dead? Why don't we know how many people? You don't need to know that information. At the end of the day, you really don't. Investigations take time. Law enforcement shows on TV that entertain us make it seem like they can go from a crime happening to arresting them to prosecuting them, putting them in prison, all in an hour time frame. And I think part of people's minds are warped, thinking that that's the case in real life, and it's not. Investigations take time. There's a lot of witnesses to talk to. There's a lot of victims to talk to. There's a lot of video footage to thumb through. There's a lot of materials to potentially read. There's a lot of people to talk to associated with the driver. There's just a lot of data and information that needs to be gathered in an investigation. Law enforcement's going to share the information they can when it's appropriate. And it's not because they're hiding everything. It's not because they're trying to cover things up. It's not because they don't want, quote unquote, the truth to. They don't want the truth to come out. Investigations take time. It takes time to figure out what actually happened, and is it a threat to public safety to share information yet? That's the other thing they have to take into account. And in regards to sharing, I can't speak for New Orleans Parish, the city of New Orleans. I can't speak for them, but I can speak for Wisconsin. When the school shooting happened, there's laws in place that the mayor and the police chief can't give out names of the victims and the people who died. They can't. They're not allowed to. The victims have rights that are protected by the law. There's people to get that information from in Wisconsin, and it's the coroner's office. I don't know what that law is in Louisiana. There's also the whole process of needing to identify who was hurt, who was killed, and figure out how to get in contact with their loved ones. And that takes time. That takes a lot of time to go through and figure who people were and identify people and to notify people. That all takes time. Things come out when it's appropriate to come out. They don't want to share information before it's vetted, before it can be properly proven that these are what happened. It takes time to confirm those things before you make things public. It just does. That is how investigations and law enforcement and that things work. It takes the data they were able to gather in just several hours is incredible, let alone sometimes it can take days, weeks, or even months to get all the information you need to properly do an investigation. So people just need to relax. You don't have to know who the victims are. You don't have to know who died. You don't have to know who was injured. You don't have to know at this point every detail about the driver, because they're still learning details about the driver. Just like in Madison, they're still learning details about the shooter. Things will come out as it comes out. And just because there are people with mobile phones and apps on their phone and cameras on their phone that they can put out any bat crazy conspiracy they want to on social media, it doesn't mean that anything is being covered up while they're working through investigations. And I get why we don't trust everything sold to us by law enforcement and by the FBI and by whatever. I understand that. There's a lack of trust there for various reasons, but just because we can access the information doesn't mean we should have access to the information, if that makes sense. Just let the investigations run its course, and we're going to learn in time what exactly happened. So, with that said, Packers and Vikings. Packers fall to the Vikings, unfortunately, on Sunday afternoon, 3:25 kickoff. They fell to the Vikings 27-25. And I don't really know what it is. I don't really know what to say, what there is to say about the game. I really don't. The Packers looked like they were starting out on a fast no, on a quick no. They got the ball, they moved it past midfield. They were moving the ball pretty easily, and then the fumble by Jacobs. And then it took the Packers a while to bounce back and recover, and it took them a minute to get things back on track offensively. The defense did the best they could with what they had, but it took the Packers a while to get things where they needed to be in order to make the comeback. Sam Darnold has had an incredible year, and the Vikings have a very tough decision to make at the conclusion of this season. Is this Sam Darnold that we're seeing right now? Is that who he is going to be moving forward? Or is the Sam Darnold that we saw prior to coming to Minnesota? Is that the real Sam Darnold? And this is just a flash in the pan season. We've seen quarterbacks have flash in the pan seasons. Rob Johnson, Nick Foles. It happens. They have outstanding seasons. I'm talking pre-Super Bowl win Nick Foles. They have an outstanding season, get paid a lot of money, and they can never replicate that season again until Nick Foles hit lightning in a bottle twice. You saw it with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he got signed. He would have a few big games, and he would get signed somewhere, and he would never be able to sustain that long-term success. And ultimately, that's what the Vikings need to figure out with Sam Darnold. Is he the guy we're seeing now, or is it somewhere in between what we're seeing now and what we saw everywhere prior to Minnesota? And obviously, if I'm the Vikings, if I'm 100% sold that this is who we're going to see moving forward, then I'm paying him. I'm paying him the money. I know you just drafted a guy in J.J. McCarthy, but I'm paying him the money, and I'm moving forward with him as my franchise quarterback. But if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, if you have any uncertainties, if this is sustainable for Sam Darnold, then you're going to be better off doing what you did when you had Chase Keenum lead you to the NFC Championship game and then let him go the following year. And you brought in Kirk Cousins. You drafted J.J. McCarthy for a reason. You weren't supposed to be this good this year. This is kind of going to be a learning year for McCarthy. But you're 14-2. You exceeded expectations, and you are a win away on Sunday from the 1 seed hosting every game at your whatever the name of the stadium is now, U.S. Bank Stadium. You're 1 win away from hosting every playoff game in the NFC there. And that's with Sam Darnold at quarterback. And I was wrong about the Vikings. I will sit here and say right now that I was wrong. They are a talented football team. They have a very good offensive line, better than I thought it would be, and their defense is pretty solid. And they take some time to figure out and to be able to move the football against. Props to O'Connell, Flores, McCowan, and the coaching staff of the Vikings. They've put together a pretty solid team. And then with Aaron Jones in that locker room as well, he's a really good locker room leader. So tip my hat to the Vikings. They're playing extremely good football right now. And they definitely have earned that 14-2 record. But with that said, it doesn't take away a few things I want to highlight regarding the Packers. First of all, 11-5 is a very good team. It's very hard to win 11 games. Hopefully soon to be 12 games of the National Football League. It just is. The fact that the Packers' only losses have come against 3 teams doesn't mean they're a bad team. The Lions, the Vikings, and the Eagles are all very good teams. And the Eagles, you played week 1 in Brazil in crappy field conditions, and you had a chance to win that game, but you couldn't get the Eagles off the field when you needed to. the first game against Detroit, even though you lost, the only double-digit loss of the year for the Packers, even though you lost by double digits, a lot of it was self-inflicted wounds, drop passes, penalties, bad routes, bad throws, bad tackling. It was just shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly against Detroit up in Green Bay, Detroit in Detroit, and Minnesota both times. Same thing. Shooting yourselves in the foot, drop passes, bad routes, bad throws, bad tackling, breakdowns in coverage. Every loss the Packers have had this year, except for the Eagles game, has always been for the same reason. It's been more self-inflicted by the Packers than the other team just being that significantly better. They've all had all the games with the Vikings and the Lions were slow starts. It took until after halftime to get things rolling on offense. There's an untimely turnover that kind of flipped things around for Green Bay before they could get back on track. And it's kind of been, I like Matt LaFleur. I think Matt LaFleur is a very good football coach. He has 67 wins, I want to say, in his first 100 games coached. Very good record. But it seems like every Matt LaFleur team has the same MO. Seems like every Matt LaFleur team has a similar MO. They face adversity, either the first drive or the first half, and it kind of knocks the wheels off everything, and they struggle for a while. They struggle to get back on track. It happened in 2021 season against San Francisco, and they lost in the divisional round at home in the playoffs. The offense was moving. Mercedes Lewis fumbles. And it took the Packers a while to get back on track against Minnesota earlier this year, against Detroit both times, against Minnesota this past Sunday. Same thing. Something happens, knocks the Packers off track. It takes a while for Green Bay to get back on track. And I don't know if it just takes them too long to readjust to what happened, but to me, that falls on Matt LaFleur. He struggles to get his team back focused when adversity strikes. It takes a minute to get back on track. And in this one, you fumble. The Vikings recover. You force them to punt. And then you come out the next series, and I know Jacobs just had a fumble, his second in, 3-4 games. And you decide to, where your receivers are struggling to get open in man coverage, you're trying to push the ball down the field. You abandon your game plan, you abandon what's been working, and you try to push the ball down the field in the passing game, and everything seemed off. The incompletion on second down to Dontrevion Wicks, to me, it seemed like Wicks ran a little bit too deep of a route. I'm not Jordan Love didn't play well in the first half. I'm not trying to excuse his performance, but it didn't look like Wicks. I rewatched the play a few times on the All-22, and it looked like Wicks ran the route too deep. If he would have ran it slightly shorter, he gets hit in stride, and it's a first down Packers. There was a 4th and 2 drop, perfectly placed ball. Now, could Love have hit him in stride? Yes, but he placed the ball where he had to place it to move the chains on 4th and 2, but Reed dropped it. Wicks had, I believe, 2 drops in the game. Reed had a drop or 2. And the Packers receivers, and I think Dobbs had a drop, and the Packers receivers started to get open. What I need to see from Green Bay in the playoffs moving forward is they got to get Tucker Kraft more involved. He had 2 catches for 53 yards. He had a catch early in the game on a screen, and then when the Packers are making the comeback, he had a big 35-yard catch, I think late third, early fourth quarter, that put the Packers in position to score a touchdown. Got to get Tucker Kraft involved more frequently. And you got to figure out 1 catch for 6 yards for Jaden Reed. He's a dynamic playmaker, but he's not being used as a playmaker. And then, of course, I guess, as I said, the 4th and 2 drop didn't help. But you got to find ways to get him the football. You had the pop pass the Vikings had to Addison in the game. Why not get back to doing some of those things with Jayden Reed? I know the end around teams kind of figured out and stopped them from running it for a while, but you got to figure out ways to creatively give Jayden Reed the football. And I know those things are easier when you have Christian Watson, number 9, lining up on the field. But hey, you didn't have him this week. You're probably not going to have him this coming game. You got to find ways to move the football without him. You just have to. But the offense seems to be handcuffed at times, especially when you have a turnover or a mistake that happens. It struggles to get them back on track. And as I said, that falls on Matt LaFleur. He starts coaching tight when adversity strikes, and I think teams have figured that out. So when they have a early turnover, they know that they're going to have their way with the Packers for a while. And the Vikings, after that, it took until the second quarter to finally get points on the board. But after that fumble by Jacobs, it took to the third quarter for the Packers to stop being a punching bag for the Vikings. But it was a tough loss. It was ultimately a tough loss. These are a type of games that the Packers are going to have to figure out how to win. They're going to have to play the Eagles, likely round 1 of the playoffs. They're going to have to play the Lions or the Vikings round 2 of the playoffs. If you get through the Eagles, you're going to have to play these better teams again. And if you get to the NFC Championship game, there's a good chance you might have to play the Vikings or the Lions once again. Because I don't think the Rams, I don't think the Commanders, I don't think the Buccaneers or the Falcons or whoever gets the NFC South, I don't think they're going to beat the Vikings or the Lions. I just don't see that happening in the playoffs. So you're going to have to beat the Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings in some order, starting with the Eagles, to get to the Super Bowl if that's ultimately what you want to get to, which I know obviously that's what the Packers want to get to. That's where all of us fans want them to get to. But they're going to have to learn how to beat those 3 teams in a row, more than likely, in some order with the Vikings and the Lions, if you want to get to New Orleans and play in the Super Bowl. Just the way it is. And the Packers are a very good team. They're a very talented football team. Jordan Love, very good quarterback. Shows flashes of greatness at times, shows flashes of average at times, but overall he's a very good quarterback. Can make some great throws at times, throws that only a handful of guys in the league can make. But you just have to get more consistent with the way you're calling plays for him. And during that stretch after the bye, you were playing to Jordan Love's strengths, and you're leaning on play action in the passing game and moving him around a little bit. Against the Vikings, you decided you wanted to make him a statue in the pocket and not let him move around a little bit. Jordan Love's mobile. I'm not saying he's a running quarterback, but he's mobile. He can run a little bit. Move him around. There's a counter play that the Packers do where they have Jacobs go in motion from the shotgun behind Love, and then he gets the ball, and then typically Love will kind of do a somewhat of a boot, and there's literally nobody at all running with Love. Love could get some nice serious yards if he keeps it and run, or you can always do it as a play action and have a tight end or a receiver kind of sneak out there like we saw in the Boise State game last night, where the quarterback faked the handoff, sprinted to his right, threw it back to the left to the tight end, and the tight end scored. You can do things like that with Jordan Love, and I think you got to go back to doing that. You got to go back to what was working during his hot stretch last year and just let him do that. And that's let him be creative. I get why you're focusing on the run because the run game travels anywhere you go if you can do it efficiently. But I think you got to take the handcuffs off of Jordan Love, which you seem to put back on him against the Vikings, and just let him go out and do his thing. So But as I said, tough loss, and now Packers get the Bears, who the Bears are a hot mess, and the easy way for the Packers to beat the Bears is just go take the field on Sunday and just punch them in the mouth immediately, get some points on the board, kick them while they're down, and don't give them an ounce of hope. If you let the Bears hang around, it's going to be a much tougher game, and guys are going to have to play a lot longer than you want them to. This is a game where you would like to get the starters out by the end of the third quarter, early fourth quarter. You're going to want to get them out of the game and resting and ready for the playoffs. And the only way you can do that is, like I said, kicking the Bears while they're down. I think the Packers are going to go into Green Bay on Sunday and get the victory, running away with it. As the Bears, they look like a team that's pretty much given up. They aren't doing much on offense. Their defense has been bad since they let go of Eberflus. And I think the Packers get the easy victory against the Bears. And I think it's not going to be a shutout like it was against the Saints, but I think it's going to be similar to that game. I think the Bears are going to score some points, but overall, I think the Packers are going to roll on Chicago and get the win. Time flies. Like this half hour, it's 31 minutes into this show. I try not to typically let it go beyond 30 minutes, but this time has flown by. And next thing I want to quickly talk about Packer-related is Jaire Alexander. And news came out today that his season is likely over, as he had a procedure done on his knee yesterday that will on his torn PCL that will likely end his season. And the other thing, again, social media is bad at times because it gives everybody an opinion on everything, and they feel like they can share it anytime they want, even though they should probably just keep their thoughts to themselves. Jaire's not trying to steal money from Green Bay. He didn't sign his contract and bail. Bakhtiari didn't do it either. He had a knee injury, an injury that obviously was more serious than everybody initially thought. He tried to play on it in Chicago. It didn't feel right. In fact, he probably aggravated and hurt the knee worse down in Chicago, playing those 10 snaps on a crappy field. And just like that, his regular season's over. And does he come back for any time in the playoffs? Probably not, but I guess never say never. But there's that, well, why didn't they put him on IR? Because they didn't think it would take this long. The knee was slow to respond. Everybody heals differently. Not everybody's Adrian Peterson, who can come back, 7-8 months after a torn ACL and MCL. Not everybody can do that. Obviously, the knee didn't respond to treatment. Matt LaFleur said Monday that there was still some concerns with swelling. And now we learned today that he had surgery or a procedure done to his knee to repair it and hopefully get him back to 100%. Jaire wants to be out there. He wants to be out there. He wants to be playing. He wants to be guarding your Jeffersons and your Amaran and your DJ Moore. He wants to be out there. He's never given and I know I don't know him personally, but by watching him throughout his career, he's always wanted that premier matchup. CeeDee Lamb last year in the playoffs, Jefferson towards the end of the year in 2022, or is it 2023? Anyways, I think it's 2022. He wanted that matchup, and he did fairly well. Tyreek Hill, Christmas Day against the Dolphins. He wanted that matchup, and I'm pretty sure it's probably bothering him that he cannot be out there playing corner going into the playoffs. I'm sure it's bugging him a lot. And you can call me a green and gold goggle wearing, Kool-Aid drinking Packer fan who can't criticize a team ever. But that's just how I feel, and I can definitely criticize a team. And it's easy to get on Goody for not taking a corner in the draft. Took a couple of safeties, didn't address corner at all in the draft. Didn't address corner at all in the free agency. And now Alexander, again, can't stay healthy for, the third year in a row. And I get they could have took Cooper DeJean, whatever. But here's the thing. Every team passed on him in the first round. He was a second-round pick. No team in the NFL felt he was a first-round prospect. The Eagles took him in the second round. Because the Packers have taken him in the first round, yes, but so could every other team in the NFL. They took the guy they felt that they would be a better value, and that was an offensive lineman that can play multiple positions, especially you're not sold on your left tackle, and he's a guy you think can play left tackle in the National Football League. You need to protect your franchise quarterback. So I get the draft pick of Morgan. Is it a move I would have made? No, but I understand it. And I'm not going to call Morgan a bust when it's his rookie season and he had an unfortunate shoulder injury in training camp that re-aggravated when he came back. I'm not going to call him a bust. Like, I have a hard time calling any rookies bust. It's like FanDuel putting out a graphic of Marvin Harrison Jr. when he had 800 yards receiving this year, asking if he's a bust already. No, it's his rookie year. It takes everybody different time frames to become quality NFL players. And some rookies, it takes longer. But sometimes it doesn't click right away. And Morgan looked very good when he was playing. But like I said, unfortunately, injuries kind of derailed him. So I'm going to end it there. I was going to talk officiating a little bit. I was going to talk some college football playoffs. But looking at the time, almost 40 minutes in, don't want to take too much more of your time. But I appreciate you. As I mentioned, find me on X at Evan with Sports. Find me on YouTube and Facebook, Talking Sports with Evan. You can also find all the audio versions of the shows for every show that I do. Sports Thoughts from Evan.substack.com. Sports Thoughts from Evan.substack.com. Subscribe to that site and get an email every time I publish a new podcast, publish a new show. You'll get an email that says, hey, new show, and you'll never miss it. And hit the alert icon on X if you're on X. Hope you all had a great 4th of July. But I'm wishing it was warmer, as you could tell. Hope you had a great New Year's Day. Hope you had a great holiday season. And I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. This has been Talking Sports with Evan. I will get back at you next week, recapping Packers and the Bears and getting you ready for the playoffs. This is Talking Sports with Evan. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Talk to you later.